When we first come in from alcohol use disorder, there is very little commonality in terms of what to expect. Will you experience urges and cravings? How bad will they be? How will they handle? What will you suffer? And so much of it is multifactorial. It has to do with your thought processes and your beliefs about why you've quit drinking and what you want to get out of sobriety. Are you just avoiding the pain, or do you believe that not drinking is the answer, the secret that you've been looking for, the magic pill, if you will, that you no longer have to swallow? And so it's really important to give yourself a lot of grace and patience as you work through how to deal with your urges and cravings in the early days. As I've shared before, I was at least not conscious of alcohol cravings. I'm going to say on one hand, in 16 months, I might have thought 5 times about, have had a conscious thought about if I want to have a drink or not. And I can't even say on a scale of 1 to 10 that they were more than a 1 or 2. I mean, it was a thought that I was like, yeah, that was a dumb thought. No thanks. But that doesn't mean there's not more going on subconsciously. As we get into what the various strategies are for managing urges and cravings, I'll share with you, for me, I came in to quitting drinking um, and immediately just immersed myself. As I've shared, the first book I read was Quit Like a Woman with Holly Whitaker. I started listening to podcasts. I did go to some AA meetings and I was listening to other people. So I I came in with 100% yes. I wasn't trying to quit drinking. I was gonna just quit drinking and figure out how to quit drinking and how to live my life afterwards. I had already made the decision. I made the decision, and that's a very important part. And I know you guys are going through the same thing. All of you have come into this program with the decision to quit drinking. Let not attached to the results, but very motivated to get good results. And so that this will be the best decision you've ever made. And it will be. But we do have to manage our urges and our cravings. As I've said, I was not really conscious of alcohol cravings, even in day 1, day 2, day 3. I worked with my belief system so strongly, gear or wrench into the gears, stop those thought processes, that I didn't think, I was suffering. I felt relief because I wasn't drinking. I will say that shortly after, I can't say in the first detox period, but within the first month, I started experiencing a lot of sugar cravings. And so I want you to know that you can use this module to manage any cravings. In addition to quitting drinking, I also eventually, I didn't quit vaping until December. So I was about 8 or 9 months into sobriety. I kind of decided to tackle one thing at a time. But whether it's smoking or vaping or sugar, drinking pop, whatever habit that you have that you're trying to break, these strategies can apply to all. So, you can use this module over and over if you're slowly chipping it away at the habits that are killing you. And the first thing and the most important thing that you will do is you will acknowledge the craving or the urge. You say this out loud. You're in your kitchen or you're near a bar or wherever you are, and you say, wow, I'm having a craving for alcohol. I would really like to pour a vodka right now. I am struggling. And just saying that out loud is really powerful because it pulls it out of the subconscious. It takes away the power of working below the surface. It comes out your mouth. This is the reality that I'm dealing with. So there's no, weird thought processes or subconscious action working against you. You bring the subconscious into the conscious, you acknowledge it. That's the number one most powerful thing you can do. It really helps if you, well, it can help if you speak those words to another person, your spouse or your partner, your sober buddy, your sponsor, your coach, whatever. But, sending a text, just letting you know, I'm experiencing a craving for alcohol and I'm going to deal with it. It provides another layer of accountability. It makes it real. It makes it so that you're not crazy. Yeah, you are craving alcohol or cigarettes or sugar or vape or whatever it is. So acknowledging, saying it out loud, pulling it from the subconscious into the conscious, really important. Um, the second most important tool, if you are experiencing an overwhelming craving, is to use the delay tactic. And I have used this, not, again, I didn't have a lot of trouble with drinking, but I've used this a lot with food, where there's brownies on the counter, or there's something in the fridge or the freezer that I really want, and for some reason I can't pour water on or put in the trash, and I'm really struggling. So the first thing you do is set a timer for 15 minutes and say, okay, I can for sure, if I'm still going to do this, I can do it in 15 minutes, and give yourself space and time to interrupt that urge and craving. And then use all the tools that we're about to talk about. But setting that timer and giving yourself the space to figure out is very powerful. And literally setting a timer, really, really good. 15 minutes. I feel like I should have a drink. I want to have a drink. I will have that drink in 15 minutes if I can't figure anything else out. Just putting that space in, really powerful. Then there are some other strategies, and the following aren't listed in order of importance or effectiveness. They're just different things, but we'll go over them. The first one being challenge maladaptive thoughts. So asking yourself a question, okay, I really want to drink. Why? What is tempting me to use? Am I stressed? Am I bored? Am I lonely? Am I procrastinating something? But, writing it down in a journal or speaking it out loud or just sticking with the thought and following through, like, what is causing this temptation or urge? Because remember, once you get through the detox process, your addiction is broken. So any urges or cravings you have after that initial start, they're all psychological. It's 100% in the mind. So you aren't actually craving alcohol. Alcohol deficiency is not your problem, where it might be in the early days. You are craving something. You're experiencing an emotion that you're wanting to tamper, or you're wanting to use alcohol as your coping mechanism. So the whole thing is about developing other coping mechanisms. So the first thing that's a good idea is to figure out what it is that you need to cope with. That's very powerful. Then other thought processes you can have, I loved play the tape forward. Okay, in 15 minutes, because remember we set a timer, in 15 minutes, if I have a drink, how is that going to go? 15 minutes later, I might feel good. Then I might start feeling tired. Then I might decide to have another one. Then I've drank too much. Then I'm feeling shame. Then I'm numb. Then I don't sleep well. Then I wake up, feeling horrible that I've set myself back. Play the tape forward. Including other things like, this could set me back completely, and suddenly I'm at the liquor store stocking up. I've blocked Recovery University and thrown away my sober books, and I'm back in hell. So just play the tape forward as much as you can, and really remember you've run that experiment before. You've poured the drink probably thousands of times when you really didn't want it and you knew it was a bad idea. So just go back over the data that you've collected over years. How is that going to go? Very rarely, or never, also never, are you going to come to the conclusion that, yeah, that's probably a safe bet and also a good idea that I'm going to be proud of myself tomorrow for making. Another really powerful thought process is, again, to look at what you're trying to cope with, but what other things are diminishing your ability to cope. So use the HALT acronym. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Most of the time, when we are experiencing an urge or a craving, one of those factors is in play. We haven't eaten well, our blood sugar is out of whack, and a good, healthy, high protein, high fiber snack could go a long way in returning us to normal, getting out of that hangry state, or just getting out of that uneasy state because our blood sugar is too high or too low. We may not even feel hangry. We just have an urge to put something in our mouth, put something else in your mouth. Um, Angry, are you dealing with emotions that you don't really want to deal with? Or maybe you're just boiling up and you're just like trying to figure out how to put the fire. Remember, alcohol flares fire. So literally, you would be pouring fuel on the fire. The boredom and the loneliness thing, what else can you do in those moments to meet those needs? Possibly reading a book, listening to a podcast, calling a friend, getting busy with a project. Go clean out your damn closet. That'll give you a dopamine boost. But just looking at the need that is either underlying the urge for alcohol or reducing your ability to say no to alcohol, and see if you can ante up and make sure you've got everything that you need in that moment to make a good decision. Asking yourself, if I was in a different mood or place or time, would I want to use alcohol? Thinking about all the positive experiences you've had since you quit drinking. And I don't care if it's 2 days, you've had some moments where you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And remembering those moments is really, really important and can pull you towards having another good moment. How good am I going to feel when I say no to this and when I overcome this? And that leads to another coping mechanism, which is to switch into positive thinking. Encourage yourself. Remember how good it feels to say no, how good it feels to feel strong. Review find your why, with all the things that you want to get out of sobriety. Um, think about other hard things you've overcome in your life. Maybe you have quit smoking, maybe you have quit sugar, maybe you have started an exercise program and so you quit, procrastination or whatever. Look back over your life and see how the struggle that you've endured and the things you've overcome have brought you to this moment. You've trained for this. You can do this. So encouraging yourself, come on, coach yourself, team you, yay, we can do this. We want to do this. We're here to win. Really a good thing. Yeah, and then encourage yourself that it's would be better to be a little uncomfortable now than really, dial that discomfort back up with a setback. You don't deserve that. You deserve a true reward. You deserve a true break. You deserve to relax. So a thing that helps here, and I have you do this in the exercise, the strategy exercise, is to make a list of all the encouraging thoughts, that I just kind of went over, which ones work for you, and putting them on a Post-it note, keeping them in a note on your phone. Memories, previous success, the thought process of halt or the thought process of play the tape, whatever it is that works for you, write it down. And in those moments, it's a tool. If there's a note on your phone and you're feeling an urge to drink or smoke or eat sugar, just have something to refer back to that's concrete and in your hands. And that leads us to another strategy, which is to distract yourself. So whether it be turning to your phone to look at your list of why you don't want to continue in this behavior, whatever it takes, relocate away from the trigger. The things in our environment that cue us are sights and smells and tastes and time of day. Habits are very, very powerful. So when all of those things come together and you realize I'm having an urge, what can you do to distract yourself? One thing that works for me really, really well is I sing. I love to sing. I probably could have been a rock star. I just couldn't stay up late and I didn't want to go on tour. It's a whole thing. But if I put on music or even just start belting out a song, that just changes my energy and it distracts me. And pretty soon I find myself at the piano picking something out or searching for a song on Spotify that I want to sing that, I don't have on a playlist. But it's writing, drawing, painting, going outside, whatever you need to do to distract yourself. Cook a nice meal. See if your partner wants to have sex. I mean, that takes some time and, completely changes your thought processes. Go for a drive, run an errand, start a project, pay your bills, clean out the garage, clean out your closet, clean out a junk drawer, start your laundry. Other distractions, find somebody who needs something that you can help with. It feels really good when we can be of service. So not only are we overcoming our own struggle, but we are contributing and giving back and making ourselves useful, building a purpose, that's greater than just sitting here in our own bullshit. So distractions are really important. And, distraction list is also another good thing to keep on your phone. Top 10 things I can do to distract myself. And I have you brainstorm some of that in the activity below. But, keep those things close at hand. Another good strategy is to simply avoid. If you're in a situation social, um, just leave or get up and go to the bathroom, take a break. If you're at home, leave the house, just get out. If your situation is where you would have to use your phone to make a call, to place an order, or to hit up a friend to meet you out, or whatever it is, turn off your phone and stick it up on a high shelf where you have to get a ladder. So you're just interrupting your ability to make that impulsive decision. So avoiding the things that could make it happen for you would be good. If a person or a group that you're with is creating the sensation, or that it's problematic to meet that group of ladies for lunch or to meet that group after work for happy hour, just avoid it until you're confident that you can manage it. Another thing, and this one was mine, if I had to identify one main goal, substitution, not main goal, one main strategy that I used in the early days was substitution. I preemptively managed my cravings and urges by and for some people, this would not work. It would be completely a bad idea. But what I did was I showed up every night at the same time for happy hour and simply changed the fact that I wasn't putting vodka or wine in my glass. So when it was time for happy hour, instead of trying to figure out what else I needed to do, I got a glass and I made a drink. And often, as was my habit, I would take a picture of the drink and send it to my drinking buddies, my girlfriends, whatever. And cheers, happy hour. I still did that. I never stopped doing that. So for me, substitution was really important. So, having non alcoholic beers when you go to the picnic or the party, bringing those with you, making sure that you have something that you're excited about, having a drink that you're excited about. Substitution could also be slamming a big glass of water. I think in life, slamming a big glass of water has to solve 9 out of 10 problems. I mean, it just does. It wakes you up. It makes your bowels move better. It calms you down. It provides energy. It just changes things. So when in doubt, drink a glass of water. I don't know. Maybe we should get t-shirts that say that. Another thing would be to do something else with your hands. Substitute, the this or the this with knitting or a project that requires you to work with your hands, painting, drawing, whatever. So substitution, again, in the activity, I want you to make a list of substitutions that can work for your circumstances. It's really powerful to kind of think ahead, problem solve ahead, look down the road. Okay, where are the obstacles? Where are the pitfalls? Where are the danger zones? And have a plan so that you can work the plan. Another thing to do to manage your cravings and strategies would be to talk to someone. And in the relapse prevention, which is also an activity that you're going to do with this module, it's really important to have people. And you need to let someone know that you're struggling and you need to ask for help. And that was honestly, if you remember back to day one for you, what that looked like, you said the words, I need help. That is the keys to the kingdom. That is freedom. So having the humility to acknowledge with a safe person, I'm struggling. Like I'm really thinking a lot about alcohol. And more than struggling, I'm suffering. Can you be with me? Can you support me? Can you tell me how much you like me as a sober person? Can you remind me of all the things that I want to do and why alcohol is a problem? Can you just sit with me in silence? You know, it's not just about the struggle, it's about the suffering. And having somebody see you, validate you, and acknowledge you is really, really powerful. So, you know, you may think, well, you know, I can handle this. Well, maybe you can, but what if you can't? Just go ahead and pull the parachute. The more you do it early on, the less you're going to have to do it. Getting comfortable asking for help is is your power tool in business. I mean, this applies across the board. Acknowledging that you don't know something, acknowledging that you're struggling, asking for qualified support, asking for emotional support, whatever it is you need, is powerful. And you know what? People love to do that. People love to feel needed. So, you know, the gift is in the giving on that one. So in this um, first part, I do ask you to list the people that you'd like to know that you can reach out to. And I want you to list them. I'm not, you know, not just, well, you know, whoever, whatever. I want you to literally make a list so that you can refer to it. When we go into the relapse prevention strategy, then we go a little bit deeper and, you know, how to work with your partner and what some of the problems could be with that, and then also other people that you want to be able to turn to. But very important to have people. The antidote to connection, or the antidote to addiction, is connection. Yes, connection with yourself, which we're making, but also connection with other people. Um, then the final strategy that I want to talk about is acceptance. Acceptance that you are having an urge and that you are having a craving. You know, it is possible to decrease our sensitivity to the physical and mental agitations of cravings. They're uncomfortable, but they're not terribly painful. You know, really, all the stuff going around in our mind, that's what's creating the suffering. If you tune into the physical sensations of the urge, of the craving, of the anxiety that's underneath that, it's really very manageable. So, you know, instead of the divert or the you know, thoughts and using all of that, sometimes it's really helpful to just accept it. And one of the things you can do to practice your ability to accept it is, drumroll please, of course you know this, meditation. Meditation, um, even if you don't think of it as meditation, you can think of it as urge resistance practice. If you sit in a chair and you set a timer for 5 minutes and you practice not squirming, not itching, every time you get a thought, come back to your breath. Every time you get a thought, come back to your breath. Oh, I'm thinking. Oh, I'm breathing. You have to practice that. It's a skill like anything else. So even if you don't look at meditation as the key to enlightenment and that's when, you know, you're connecting with source and getting into flow, no, you're just practicing how to not squirm. You're practicing how to sit in church, as, you know, many of us grew up. I mean, that's why my parents, they would say, you know, that's why we went to church, so that you guys had to sit quiet and learn how to do that. So that's really important, is to learn to accept and to learn to not overreact to the need to squirm, the need to reach for the drink, the cigarette, the sugar, or whatever. To learn that you can override that urge. Like, you're an adult, you're not a 2-year-old. You can handle it. And so many, oh, many situations Okay, we're going to move into habits. So many situations that create the unpleasant experience, they're just habits. So we're moving into our Breaking Bad Habits worksheet. Um, we react in a familiar way. We do something without thinking. We move into autopilot. So one benign example or separate example from addiction, another example would be like if somebody cuts you off in traffic. We might suddenly feel irrationally angry. But if we interject that with what's going on, somebody just moved their car in front of us. Like it's not that big of a deal. And yet we feel this urge to rant and complain and to drive aggressively. It's all this impulse that comes up. And in the same way, wanting to drink or smoke or vape or eat sugar in a situation that we've become accustomed to, the way we feel when we can't is that irrational anger, frustration, or even grief. We used to and now we don't. But the good news is that those physical sensations can be managed. And so you can notice that they may feel really intense, but if you give it a minute, you're going to be okay. It changes over time. It dissipates. It loses its charge. It loses its intensity. You can learn, it's a skill. You can learn to wait them out with calm and just curiosity about the physical sensations. Um, so, the first thing that we went through, the two most important strategies for managing an urge or a craving is to acknowledge it. Number one, acknowledge it, say it out loud. Don't let it be subconscious. Don't let it be in the back of your mind. Don't ignore it. Bring it to the front. This is what's happening. This is my reality. Deal with it. Number two, if it's super, super strong, set a timer, delay, and then move into all the other strategies that I just covered. All right. So the second handout in this module is about breaking bad habits. Just a couple of simple things to say about bad habits. When we come in from quitting drinking, we have probably been arguing with ourselves about whether or not we have a bad habit or whether or not we have an addiction. And the truth is, yes, both. You have both. The addiction is broken in within 10 days. So any urge or craving you have beyond that is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. It's a reflection of your belief systems, but it's also a reflection of the habit. Habits are behaviors that we perform where they're just autopilot, they're muscle memory. We've skipped the intentional decision making process that we have with other behaviors, and we move into autopilot. We're not even really paying attention. I can think of so many times where I had a drink in my hand and I don't even know how it got there. I know I poured it because there's nobody else around, but I literally can't remember doing it because it had become such a habit. So, what I want us to do with breaking bad habits is to understand scientifically that the way to break the habit, not just the addiction, but the habit now we're talking about, is that you have to become aware and alert of how that habit happens. So, it's not just pouring the drink in the glass, it's the time of day, it's a sight, a sound. It's a routine. There's something in the environment that's triggering the behavior. So you're reacting to a cue. And it could just be the door you walk in from work. You're so used to coming in there, throwing down the keys, grabbing the drink, pouring the drink. There are so many different things. It doesn't have to be things that you're at home. But when you do the breaking bad habits exercise, I give you 4 options to examine and identify. Very important, as I was saying, science shows that when you can identify the habit, look at it from a 360 view, then you can introduce disruptions to that habit that are very simple. Uh, you know, eating with your left hand, keeping your coffee maker in a different place. Hopefully you don't have vodka in the house, but moving the wine glasses from front and center, where your cups are, into another location in another room so that you can serve guests, but you don't have to look at them. Just little things like this. So I'm having you look at 4 different habits, and I want you to break them into 2 different categories. And you can come up with more, but 2 is probably about the most you're going to have. Look at weekdays, work days, normal run of the mill days. Find 2 habits that you have created around drinking and just explore that. When does it happen? How would you be able to predict that it's going to happen? Come up with all of the set the stage like you're writing a screenplay. How does that happen? And then the second type of day would be your weekend, your special times, but that you have on a regular basis. And explore any habits that you have with that. Sitting down at a restaurant and ordering a drink, that's a habit. um, what can you do to interrupt that process so that you are not just on autopilot? And only you can do that with your life. Then with the Breaking Bad Habits worksheet, we are going to figure out small disruptions, and they will be benign. They will seem silly. They are not silly, because anytime you have an autopilot situation, if you can interrupt that by just doing things different, it gives you the opportunity to create new habits and open up new intention for habits that are serving you. So you're not just breaking bad habits, you might be creating new ones, but the most important thing is breaking the bad ones. And small disruptions can do that. Literally, it can be walking in a different door of your house when you come in, sitting in a different place when you watch TV. Uh, I, you can come up with these on your own. And research also shows that when you're trying to break bad habits, one of the most powerful things you can do is getting it out of your head and putting it into paper. You can digitally use, if you're typing in a journal. That's how I journal, is I do it on my computer. But you can handwrite or whatever. And so I give you a form. You can print it out if you want, and just do it for no more than a week. Do a couple work days, do a couple weekend days, and any disruptions that you've introduced into your routine, then I want you, as soon as that has occurred, that situation has occurred, within 15 minutes if you can. But if you do this, if you're journaling morning or night and you just reflect on this, you can do that as well. But writing down a description of that habit and the environment, writing down whatever strategy you use. So maybe you physically relocated something or changed your routine so that the muscle memory changes. Maybe you're using one of the strategies we've already talked about, awareness, distraction, avoidance, calling somebody, replacements, whatever. So think about the strategy that you used, and then also rate how successful you were. Maybe you were successful, but on a scale of 1 to 5, you'd rate it at a 3. You didn't drink, you didn't smoke, but it was still uncomfortable. You still had to face the cue. It still came up. The disruption in your environment wasn't enough. And so then you did have to employ strategies to manage the craving or the urge. So just rate the success and then continue to play with it. And then finally, in this module, I've got your relapse prevention plan. It is key to expect the best, but plan for the worst. So in early sobriety, they say you're in a pink bubble. I got to be honest, I've been in a pink bubble, even on bad days and dealing with post-acute withdrawal syndrome and dealing with just life in general. I have never stopped feeling like I just won the lottery, like I just discovered the secret. That's always been there. So in the early days, especially when you're feeling not only just amazing and relieved, but also strong, and you're dedicating the time to your healing, pretty soon the training wheels will come off the bike and you'll go back into life, using the time that you've set aside in the early days to really plan ahead, and have contingency plans, recognizing that just because you feel amazing, dedicated, certain today, you're human, that's not going to last. It does change. Now, it's never changed for me in terms of I think I might want to drink, but I faced challenging times and I've had things to work through. So using this time to your advantage, recognizing that recovery is not linear. Yeah, you feel better on day one than you did before, and week one, and month one, but you're still going to move into times of uncertainty. And we will be working more with how to balance sobriety with recovery with just your normal life. How much time and energy do you want to dedicate to this? People who have been horrible addicts, not that they're horrible people, but their addiction was, hospitalization, and their life blew up and fell apart. When you hear them talk about their recovery, they'll say, recovery is my first priority. And, I can't say that recovery isn't my first priority. Maybe I just don't language it like that. My first priority is living my best life. But, as we move forward, you'll have to decide how specific you want to get and how much of a priority you need to make. But that's on down the road. For now, go through the relapse prevention plan. The first thing we're going to do, as we've already talked about, is you have to identify people who you can contact when either you're having an acute craving, like, oh shit, I might drink right now, or you recognize that you're in a persistent struggle and you feel like your reserves are draining. It's very important to reach out for help before you need emergency services. And the sooner you're able to communicate that you need support, just reinforcement, just a conversation, just a reminder, the sooner you can communicate that, the sooner you pull out of it. Why wait till it gets super bad? I do talk about in the enlist support section that if you are using your spouse, which you probably are, of course you are, if you have a good relationship or you're trying to have a good relationship, letting them know what you're going through and letting them see the struggles, not just all the success of you rocking your new sober t-shirts. Letting them see the struggle is part of your relationship. But you can't forget in the good times when they are supportive and loving and kind and, making you a priority, that, partner relationships, they have their ups and downs. So if you just have your partner as a support person, first of all, what if you want to drink because of your partner? That's not a good plan, which is why you need more than one person. But when you do use your partner as well, I do encourage you to, with my husband, this is a strategy that works. I have a safe word. And, I didn't really introduce the safe word as part of my sobriety. It was really more when I was still drinking, I introduced it because my circuits would blow and I would not be able to control myself. And we would get into this emotional conflict that had nothing to do with whatever we were fighting about. And so I introduced for both of us, and it's worked beautifully, a safe word. The safe word is safe. And boom, conversation stops. We relocate to separate rooms and we just take a timeout. And so introducing a safe word with your partner to let them know in a time of conflict that you literally are ready to leave the room and go make a drink, and you need them to shift their focus and recognize that. And so table the conversation and move into, distraction avoidance, whatever other strategy you're going to use, is good. So safe words are good. I like safe words, not just for sex. I'm just saying. Then I have a section on red flags, learning to spot the risk factors for trouble down the road is really important. And I go through, I list as many as I can think of. And then I ask you to think, if you had to predict, because it's not your first day here at band camp, if you had to predict that you were going to go back to drinking, smoking, eating sugar, what do you think would be the red flag? So some internal reflection there, list your own red flags, and then brainstorm the strategies and the actions as we've already been using, but these are broader. They're not just, dealing with a craving in the moment. What might you need to do if you notice you're struggling? Maybe it's go back to a trusted therapist. Maybe it's change something in your life. Maybe, who knows? I'm not going to do the brainstorm for you, but brainstorming what to do. First of all, identifying what the red flags are in general, what your red flags may be, and what you would do if you see them. You know, we got to take this shit seriously. You cannot assume that just because today you're convinced that you never want to drink again, that you're never going to drink again. You have to take this shit seriously. And the more seriously you take it, the less you're going to need all the tools. So go in hard, play to win. Do these exercises. And then finally, in that one, not finally, but one other thing I do is I ask you to articulate all the things that you're currently doing for sobriety. Number one, done. Recovery University, got it. But what other things are you doing in your habits and daily routines and all the things that you're putting in? Boundaries. You know, in early recovery, I tell you, and most of you do express back to me, that you've made space, you've canceled appointments. You know, that won't necessarily change even as you get to be more healing. You're going to shift into a place of self care where that's just how you roll. And it's so foreign, you haven't done that. But um, listing the ways you're practicing self care right now is part of the activity. Then I ask you to go over, and I list as many as I can without getting repetitive or wacky and out there, but I want you to rate your relapse risk. You know, holidays, financial setbacks, certain situations, parties, vacations, people, whatever. I ask you to rate your, on a scale of 1 to 5, 0 being no risk at all, zero chance, to 5 being for sure that would happen, and rate somewhere in there. And then understand that most of those experiences are going to happen. So those that you rate, you know, 2 or higher, let's look at, you know, a preemptive game plan. You just need a game plan. And so some of this may seem arbitrary. Some of this may seem, you know, elementary. Like, I don't want to do my homework. I don't want to do this. But I tell you what, this is the work that will protect you in the future. An hour now might save you years of going back into drinking. So just do it. Um, I ask you to create an action plan. And we're going to do a lot more of that in social situations, but an action plan for, you know, escaping situations, planning for situations, avoiding situations, whatever it is that you need to do. And then finally, I end with just a little handout on strategies for high risk situations and environments. And, you know, there's probably 100, I list 6. And ultimately, the more you read about this stuff, again, I'm I'm encouraging you to read, do the homework, because the more you immerse yourself in this work, the safer and stronger you're going to feel sooner, because you are aware. The fear, that underlying fear, okay, and I know it's there. And I can say, for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm down to about a 1, but it's not gone completely. The fear of, what if I go back? What if I don't sustain this? What if I forget? You know, it's kind of the same fear I know that I've had in times of my life where I've fallen off or never started when I was young exercising. And then, you know, you're back in the gym and you're 5 weeks in, or you're 5 months in, and you still have that underlying fear that you could turn back into the piece of shit. You could turn back into the lazy fat ass that you have worked so hard to not be. These exercises go speak to reinforcing the new commitment, the new you, the new goals, and ensuring that you're never going to go back. So even if they feel elementary, do them anyway. And that's it for this module. Reach out if you have any questions or want to discuss. Talk to you soon.